Welcome to episode 128 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm John DeConti, keeping the driver's seat warm for our buddy Karl, who's off doing grown-up stuff. We're here to take you through the week that was and preview a big upcoming week in wrestling action, powered as always by the Eastern Observer. You can feel the power. Here with me, as always, staying up late across the pond, our expert on all things UK and soon to be all of Europe, Gary Mehaffy. Gary, how are things tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm just every week it gets another week closer to me being crowned king of Europe, and that's I'm just looking forward to a bigger paycheck, obviously. And then.
Yes, I mean, I cannot wait for the coronation. I've got an outfit picked out and everything.
Wait, you get paid?
What?
You get paid for this?
Yeah, because twice zero, still zero. But that's like.
And also with us is our resident NXT guru.
And number 4, John Smith.
How are you this evening, sir?
Good, man. Feeling a little oozy today after this past Saturday. And feeling really oozy after what my Jets did to your Bears a couple days ago as well, John.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I think I got a call at halftime. They needed some help in the secondary. So, yeah, you guys beat us up something awful. Oh, man. So, on tonight's show, we've got Survivor Series to recap. That was a show that gave us one pile of hot garbage and 4 matches that were absolutely outstanding right up until the last 3 seconds on each of them. We had some War Games fallout last night on Raw. SmackDown will hold their own World Cup finals this week. Impact mostly took the week off, so we'll just pick some matches. AEW, they were catching their breath last week after the big Full Gear pay-per-view, so only like 8 or 10 title defenses. And we'll, of course, start with NXT on a week where we'll see some extra Hall of Fame faces tonight, and we'll make our picks for the whole week. And, of course, our picks are brought to you by ProWrestlingPick'em.com. Play against your friends, play against the universe. And fellas, yeah, you know. All right, here are the Raw roll-ups heading into the week. If I can find them, because I never can find them. There we go. Starting the week, AEW has a 5 roll-up lead, and Impact is sneaking up. Let's take that one down, and I keep forgetting to put the names back up. There we go. All right, let's jump into NXT from last week. The week was all about the big North American title match. Wesley was approached in the parking lot by Tony D, who still hasn't forgot what Wesley did to him, which was nothing because he just fell awkwardly on his knee. Trick Williams was backstage with McKenzie. Wesley butted in and, played a little Jedi mind trick on him and got Williams to kind of agree that he wasn't going to come out and cause any trouble because Mello didn't need him. Well, that's what the night was all about. It was our main event. John Smith, how did this one work out?
Well, Mello came out first, and he had one of his pronouns on his shirt for some reason. It just said him. Then Wesley comes down. He climbs the aggro crag to get to the ring. Those for all your Nickelodeon Guts fans out there from 1994. The story of this match is they were just like super equally matched up, man. Like they just went back and forth. Right before the commercial break, they were comboing each other, but blocking everything, and then they end up each going for basically like a bro kick type of kick, and they end up hitting each other and then scissoring as we go to commercial break. That was the real scissor. The Acclaim should take notes. They should come out and scissor that way. After we come back from the break, Mello took advantage for a little while, and then once Wesley got the upper hand, out comes Trick Williams. So Wes just makes quick work of him by jumping over the top rope, smashing him, beating him up. Comes back in and still has the advantage somehow. Mello goes for a run into the corner. Wes ducks out of the way. Mello hits the turnbuckle, backs up. Wesley does a springboard backflip off his hands into an upside down kick, kind of like a bicycle kick.
Yeah.
And he picks him right up into a Michinoku driver, 1, 2, 3, and Wesley's still your champion. But then there was some animation on the Jumbotron that looked like a jail cell opening and then shutting back up. Zoom out of Wesley, and behind him is Dominik Dijakovic. I'm sorry, T-Bar, looking pretty badass with his mirrored aviators and his long black trench coat. Picks him up into a choke, onto his shoulders, upside down into some sort of go to sleep type move. I think did Sammy Guevara use that move?
Yeah, I think he calls it the go to hell. Yeah,
right. Yeah, so it was the same move. Then we go off the air with Dijakovic just looking mean.
And he will make his in-ring re-debut tonight. So we were talking backstage. We've all kind of got our little wish list for who he might face because we know it's going to be a squash. So look forward to that tonight. That was that ended the show last week. But what started the show was Cora Jade making, I don't want to say quick work of Wendy Chu. They did go for about 10 minutes. But Cora, once again, underhanded tactics. She grabbed her kendo stick. Wendy took it away from her. The ref took it away from both of them. And as the ref turned their back, Cora grabbed Wendy's orange soda, splashed it in her face. She hits her with a double underhook DDT. Cora gets the win, and Wendy Chu cried afterwards. So I don't know where this one's going. Not a good look for Wendy. And one of her eyelashes, like in the middle of her cheek, got knocked off with the soda too. So just, I guess that's what the young kids call an ugly cry. So
maybe they need to bring in Keenan and Kale to be in Wendy Chu's corner from now on.
I was literally just thinking the same thing.
So Javier Bernal, you remember last week he had a list of everyone who was completely unavailable for him to fight. Well, he did some extra thinking and he came up with the Big Body Files, a list of over 1,300 names that right off the bat made Mackenzie go, "You're kidding me with this, right?" Names like Elon Musk, Axiom right off the bat, who we just told him last week was hurt. Drake, not Drake Maverick, Drake the rapper, and some long retired superstars. He continues to, just bring up idiotic names and an unattainable wish list. So hopefully he'll get someone really fun tonight because it seems like he's going to be part of tonight's show. So hopefully he gets to be in the ring tonight and, have some interesting stuff happen. Isla Dawn had a vignette last week where she said that she and Alba Fire are going to have so much fun together. And Gary, I know you can't wait for that, right?
Oh, yes.
Now, do those two have a big history back in UK?
I mean, they were both obviously part of ICW and stuff. So I mean, they've come up through that. But with them both being Scottish, they're on independence. They had quite a few matches and stuff.
So they go back even further than just NXT UK.
Yeah.
Really nice. Well, that's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see. We had Grayson Waller. He showed up and kind of like, elbow to the ribs with Duke Hudson. I love this gimmick that you're pulling when, you're pretending like you're all in with Chase U. Duke Hudson looked at him like, I don't know what you mean. Shortly thereafter, Duke was, chopping it up with some of the other Chase U students when Pretty Deadly came out or crossed paths with him. Started busting chops again and kind of got personal with Duke. Duke throws a haymaker and nobody else from Chase U helped him out. It was 1-on-2 against Pretty Deadly. They rumbled into the break. After the break, he went sprinting all the way back to the Chase U offices, which I assume are right down the hall. And he interrupted Andre Chase, who was having some office hours with one of his students, to tell him not only did he get in a fight with Pretty Deadly, but they're going to get a tag title match out of it tonight, baby. Gary, tell us how that one worked out.
It was just the thought of Andre Chase getting office hours with one of his students. I thought that sounds wrong in so many levels. But no, yeah, Duke Hudson and Kit Wilson started off, and we ended up after a back elbow and a sidewalk slam. Elton Prince tagged in, but Andre Chase took him down, and he managed to get the Chase U or the Garvin stomps in. After Prince hits an axe handle, there's a bit of back and forward, and there was a spot that you could see, sort of two spots coming. Andre Chase threw Prince out of the ring, and he collided with Thea Hale. So Duke Hudson jumped down to check on her as Andre Chase was trying to tag out, which meant that Prince got in and hit Chase with a gut wrench. But then, as we come towards the end of it, we had Andre Chase, after some stuff back and forward, tagged in, but Duke Hudson was looking for a big boot on Kit Wilson, but accidentally, inverted commas, hit Andre Chase with it. And all of a sudden then Elton Prince tags back in, and one spilled milk later, and the Dandy Highwaymen, Pretty Deadly, are still your tag team champions.
Such tasty treats they are. Oh, goodness. All right. So last week, we also got the debut of Scripps. Scripps, who had spent weeks just teasing us and all kinds of choppy language and speaking flowery prose. And the big reveal is it's Reggie in a Magneto mask. So, yeah.
And it's way too big for his face.
Exactly. Well, he hit his, what he used to call the big top pop, but he hit it off the top buckle. And he got the 1-2-3 on Guru Raj in less than a minute and a half. And afterwards, he kind of left a calling card on his chest, but it seems like they hadn't figured out the production on that one yet. So they were kind of cutting away from it, cutting back to it. I don't know if there was supposed to be any relevance there, but he just left an orange piece of paper with his name on it on Guru Raj's chest. Okay, super. The Schism were in the ring to deliver their Thanksgiving message. They were all seated around a nice table. Ava Rain went to the audience and pulled somebody in to join them. It was all, everyone was kumbaya-ing. It seemed all wonderful. And then Joe Gacy's attitude changed just a little bit. He got a little bit dark. He declared the Schism Invictus, said it was too late to join, but he thanked the random dude for his sacrifice and put him through the table with what amounts to a rock bottom. I don't know if there's anything to read into that, but it happened. Later on, we caught Idris Anafe and Malik Blade in the parking lot. They were trying to be nice. They were trying to get Von Wagner to come hang out with them. They were going to go hit the town for a party. Wagner called them both losers, bounced them off a couple of cars, and then he ripped Blade's sweater vest off, which we just found out the previous week was a nod to his dearly passed father. So that makes Von Wagner an even bigger dick. Well, they're going to fight about it this week. We've got to make a pick. We got Malik Blade, and we got Von Wagner. Our NXT guru, John Smith. How do you see this one working out?
I think Von Wagner is just going to kick his head off. I think he's not going to make quick work of him. I think he's going to want him to feel the pain for a little while, though.
Yeah. Gary, how about you, sir?
Yeah, I don't think I'll differ too much from what John's saying there. I think this will be big VW ticket.
Yeah, we'll make it unanimous. I don't see that one working out for Mr. Blade. Whether or not he leaves with his sweater vest this week intact, not entirely sure. We also had a vignette from Charlie Dempsey last week that I know made somebody on this panel smile. He trains like all the other legends, flipping the cards, doing the reps, and we will see him stretch. He had a great line where he said he's surrounded by people who train like they're just trying to look good on Instagram. And he's going to stretch them all because professional wrestling is serious business. And just the fact that he used that phrase made me smile. All right, let's see what else we had. Okay, then we got to the women's division. We had some everyone in the women's division is trying to position themselves for the big upcoming deadline. Premium live event, that is. We had Ivy Nile taking care of Kiana James, but Fallon Henley kind of got involved there. And that's going to lead us to this week where Fallon Henley is going to take on Kiana James. Gary, how do you see this one going?
Kiana James It's one of those ones where every time I pick her, she always never goes that way. But I'm going to say Kiana James.
All right, John Smith. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I like Kiana James to win this one too. Yeah, she's got. Who's the girl that's always with her? I forget her name.
Giovanna.
Her real name is Giovanna, and I think she's got a Brazilian or Portuguese last name, but they haven't actually referenced her yet. We've heard Kiana call her a couple times, and a couple times it sounded like she just called her Gianna, but I think her real name is Giovanna, and I hope she comes out and gets involved.
Yes.
For which reason I'm going to be taking Kiana James as well. Also in the women's division, we had somebody was making a TikTok backstage last week. It might have been La Madrina, and she caught Roxy Perez and Indy Hartwell just chewing each other out backstage, back and forth. Well, tonight they're going to fight about it. Let's go right back to you, Gary. Roxy and Indy, how do you see it working out?
I hope Roxanne, because I'm a big Roxanne fan. I think she is the future. So why not? I'll go for Roxanne Perez.
All right, John Smith.
Indy seems like she's gotten it together recently, so I think like her winning streak's going to continue.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go. I'm with you, John. I think I'm going to support indie wrestling in this one, and Roxy obviously has a big future ahead of her one way or another. But I think it seems like they're doing something with Indy here because they keep kind of coming back to her, kind of focusing on her. So I'm going to agree with you, sir.
It's the type of storyline where it seems like she would lose every match, but she's winning every match. It's weird.
Exactly. Okay, so then we had Apollo Crews had a little vignette where he's writing in his journal about he just can't wait to face Braun Breaker. And then we had a Braun Breaker vignette where for some reason he felt we needed to know that when he's not smashing opponents, he's just a quiet fisherman. I don't know what any of that had to do with anything, but they also did announce that it's booked and it's coming to us at Deadline, Crews versus Breaker. So get ready for that one. That should be good stuff. Speaking of Deadline, this week, Shawn Michaels is going to announce presumably all 10, but they haven't said specifically, but he's going to announce the participants in the Deadline, male and female 5-person Iron Survivor Challenge matches. But he's not going to make those decisions all on his own. He's bringing along some more Hall of Famers. We're going to get to see Alundra Blaze tonight. We're going to get to see Molly Holly, the Road Dogg, and for some reason, X-Pac. So last week, the show opened with Mandy and Toxic Attraction in the ring. Mandy said that NXT had to create a whole new match just to find her another opponent. And then the other two botch machines started yapping about how they wanted the tag titles. That brought out our tag champs, Caden Carter and Katana Chance. And they kind of had a little brawl there, but it was 3-on-2, so it didn't work out too well for the tag champs. Later on, Zoe Stark would defeat Sol Ruka, and she was putting the boots to Ruka after the match, which got Nikita Lyons involved to chase Zoe off. Backstage, bringing those two segments together, the tag champs and Nikita Lyons cross paths. Now, they were just across the ring from each other a couple of weeks ago, but they said no hard feelings. Kind of everyone's come to the realization that Zoe was the bad one all along, blah, blah, blah. Nikita actually offered to stand by their side in their fight with Toxic Attraction, which at the time wasn't even booked as a match, but has since been. We've got a 6-woman tag coming up tonight. It is all 3 members of Toxic Attraction versus the tag champs, Katana and Caden, and their third, Nikita Lyons. John Smith, main event. How do you see it working out?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Nikita and who?
Nikita and the tag champs, Caden and Katana.
Right.
And then they're against all 3 members of Toxic Attraction.
I'll go with the faces on this one. Hanging out on Mandy for once.
Okay, Gary, how about you? How do you see it?
I was thinking that I had a couple of scenarios in my head. I'm gonna say though, well, I'll go Toxic Attraction, and then I think leading maybe to a tag title match at the Premium Live event, and the tag champs will go over on that one.
Yeah, Gary, I was gonna go the same way John went, And last week I went that way a couple of times thinking, oh, you're going to put champs in this match where their titles aren't on the line. That's a good time to get some losses for the champs without it really hurting them. Yeah, that didn't work out so much for me. So I'm going to go with you on this one and say that the NXT Women's Champ and her two cohorts are going to get the win, and they'll probably wind up pinning one of the tag champs, and that, like you said, will set up a tag title match. All right, that's going to do it for NXT. Let's jump back real quickly last week to SmackDown. We had some more Bray Wyatt in the ring. And LA Knight backstage, Wyatt was out there saying how you people want to see the Fiend, you want to see the worst of me. That's not who I want to be anymore. LA Knight was backstage, his arm in a sling, he's on a crutch, saying, I'd love to go out there and kick his butt, but look at the shape I'm in, but I just can't stand seeing him out there lying like that. Cut to later. Once again, LA Knight is buried under some gear backstage. He's trapped in between a roll-up door and one of the road crates or whatever. So I thought maybe last minute they'd add that one to Survivor Series. It didn't happen because Knight's still selling an injury, so we'll see how that one works out. Also on the show, we had the Viking Raiders defeating Hit Row in just over 3 minutes with their new double team power bomb that they are calling Ragnarok. And things should be picking up in the tag division, hopefully very soon. But last week was mostly about the lead up for Survivor Series and one other thing, the World Cup. We had a semifinal match between Santos Escobar and Butch. John Smith, let us know how this one worked out.
Man, I would have loved to have seen this one happen in NXT for a belt at some point. They didn't get the proper amount of time here. Santos obviously comes out with Legato, including Zelina. Zelina's on commentary. Butch comes out with Ridge, and was it just Ridge? Yeah, it was just Ridge, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So the story of this one was that Legato just kept getting involved, and Butch had to keep fighting him off. At one point, he jumped over the top rope into both of them, and at another point, he moonsaulted off the top rope to the outside onto them. It just proved to be too much because once Zelina got up on the apron and distracted the ref, Butch ate 2 kicks from each of the Legatos on the outside and then a phantom driver on the inside from Santos, and we get a 1, 2, 3, and we go to the finals. Santos is winning this thing.
Yes, indeed. Santos is on to the finals this coming week, but before we get there, we've got to get him an opponent. So we had Ricochet and Strowman face off in a semifinal also on that show after Strowman had apparently made some comments about undersized guys. Well, of course, Imperium would have to distract Strowman so Ricochet could jump up on his shoulders. And quite frankly, it didn't look like he even made the big man stumble, but he sold it. He rolled back into a crucifix. 1, 2, 3, and Ricochet gets the big upset and is headed to face Santos in the finals this week on FS1 here in the States. Let's pick this one. Gary, who do you got? Santos Escobar, Ricochet in the World Cup final, with the winner going on to get chopped in half by your boy Gunther.
Say it, Gary. Say
it. Ricochet. No, I do. I think if with Gunther keeping the title, I can't see that they would feed Santos to him, to be honest about it. Whereas I could see them being willing to kind of sacrifice Ricochet to him. So I would say Ricochet will win the match and then be fed to Gunther, as you say.
Yeah, well, Gunther's already told Ricochet, I think, that he very much look forward to beating his ass again. So I guess maybe that's the angle they're playing. John Smith, how do you see this one working out?
I gotta go with my boy Santos. I know it doesn't make sense. I know that but then again, I love me some heel on heel action. I'd love to see Santos versus Gunther. I'm not that far out there though to think that Santos would beat Gunther. Okay, but I'm gonna go with my boy Santos on this one just because I love him.
All right, you know what? I was going to go the other way because I the Ricochet rematch line. I'm going to go with Santos just because I hope we get a nice trios match out of this. Legado versus Imperium. I don't expect anyone to be Gunther, but let's say that Santos gets the win here. He takes home the brandy new trophy, and then we get some faction warfare because I'm all about that.
I feel like with the World Cup, it kind of fits Santos more than it does Ricochet.
Fair thought. Okay, also on SmackDown, but all this stuff kind of melds itself into Survivor Series. Last week, I think the show started with Damage Control in the ring. Team Bianca came down the aisle, and they were joined by their fifth member, the returning Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was backstage with Kayla later, said that Damage Control had put her out of action, so she's ready for war. Roll that through into Survivor Series War Games. And Gary, tell us how it worked out between Team Bianca and Team Damage Control.
I do have to say, I thought it was very unfair in the women's match that you had 9 women and then not just a man in it, but the man. I thought that was a little bit unfair on them. Now, as we said earlier on, how we're going to leave some of this out, I'm not sure. But Bianca and Dakota Kai started off, and Dakota had caught Bianca with a scorpion kick. And then after the 5 minutes of back and forth between them were up, Io Sky came in and she hit Bianca with the head scissors, and they trapped her in between the 2 rings. Asuka came in next, caught Dakota with the German suplex, and she and Io Sky faced off, which I thought the crowd really reacted well for. And they seemed to be calling a lot of spots in Japanese because they knew the crowd wouldn't understand it. And they went back and forth with each other. Nikki, Don't Call Me ASH, Cross then brought several weapons into the ring and was beating people with trash can lids and so on, and tornado DDTs onto it. Alexa came in next to even it up again. And then in the middle of all this, they all started hitting each other and exchanging kendo stick strikes. They were just absolutely hammering each other with those. And just at the end of that, Nikki Cross did the first big move of the match, diving off the top of the cage, hitting a high cross off the top. Bayley then came in and brought a couple of ladders in, and the table, which the crowd had been chanting for during the match. Bianca got slammed into the corner with a sunset flip bomb. And Damage Control then were driving a table into Bianca's ribs. Is it Michin or Mia Yim or Michin Mia Yin, whichever we want to call her, came in next and was taken out a bit quickly during it, but she did then hit Bayley with a suicide dive from one ring to the other. Rhea was the 9th lady into the match. She came in and was hitting big moves and big suplexes and stuff when she came in, so to get her power over. And lastly, as we say, Becky Lynch came in to officially then start the War Games match. And we had, after that, Asuka blinded Rhea, which is what kind of led us into coming towards the finish. Asuka blinded Rhea with the mist, and Becky DDT'd her. You then had Io Sky with another big move off the top with a big moonsault. And you had Bianca then led Io and Dakota on top of the table. Becky climbed to the top. Bianca took Bayley out with the KOD, and Becky came off the top with a big leg drop and squashed them both through the table. And your winners are Team Bianca. Team Bianca.
Once again, a fantastic match right until that last 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I gotta give Io credit. It's part of because just how good she is, and she knows it, and partly she must really trust everyone because she got up there for that moonsault off the top of the cage. She didn't really even look back over her shoulder. She hit it. It was beautiful. It landed. My God, I cannot imagine what it's like up there trying to do that kind of stuff. Okay, let's jump back real quick to SmackDown, where we saw footage. It wasn't even from SmackDown. It was from the day before on Thanksgiving, when Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley showed up at the Mysterio household, ruined Thanksgiving, beat the hell out of Ray. I don't know why we needed to see that. Okay, we're already we believe you. Dom is a dick. We're all on board. It's no problem. We believe it. roll that forward for the Judgment Day and the OC. We go to Survivor Series where we saw the match that we were almost guaranteed was going to steal the show. AJ Styles, Finn Balor, John Smith had this one go.
And steal the show it did. The Finn came out with Judgment Day minus Rhea. AJ came out with the club, Luke Gallows and Anderson. Right off the bat, we went back and forth, and then they ended up in the corner. Ref broke them up. They're both okay, and then Finn goes for the kick. But AJ, instead of taking the kick, catches the kick, puts it over the rope, and starts beating on his leg. So we spend about the first 5 minutes of AJ just concentrating on that left leg, I believe, of Finn Balor. Finn obviously had some counters to come back at him, but it was a lot of beating up on that left leg until Dominic Mysterio got involved. What's his name? Priest gets up on the apron, distracts the ref. Then Dominic sweeps AJ's feet out from under him when he's on the apron. That causes Gallows and Anderson to start fighting with the Judgment Day. Then we get them cleared out. So now we just got the two of them, the AJ and Finn going at it on their own. Finn took over for a little while, but and went for the Styles Clash, but AJ reversed that. We never actually saw a Styles Clash from AJ this match. At one point, we got dueling bicycle kicks, one right after the other. AJ first, then Finn, to get down for the ref to start counting them down. Later on in the match, we got a nice enziguri by AJ into the corner, and then when he went for a splash, he gets back body dropped over the ring, but it's in between the rings, so he's standing on that little metal area. He gets enziguri, but then comes right back with a forearm. Finn Balor ends up in the middle of the ring. AJ jumps to the top rope. Phenomenal forearm. 1, 2, 3. This is exactly how the match should have went. The better wrestler wins. The face wins. Great match. Get riffraff out of the way so these two can go at it. It was perfect.
Yeah, you couldn't really ask for much more than that match gave us. We all had high hopes. I don't think anybody left disappointed on that one.
And it feels like they did save a little bit too, so they could go have another 25-minute banger, and it will be nothing like what we just saw.
Yeah, those two certainly have it in them. So we will look forward to that. Jumping back to SmackDown, Shotzi and Raquel were backstage with Megan when Ronda and Shayna attacked. They put a quick beating on Shotzi, but they were basically there to take Raquel out of the picture. They put her arm in one of those rolling equipment cases and slammed it. Then they went out to the ring because there was supposed to be a tag match that night and said, looks like we're not going to have a tag match. Well, Shotzi came out to face them 1-on-2. And then about 2 minutes into the match, Raquel came out holding her arm. She was going to, be there for her partner no matter what. That wound up not being the best idea because, Ronda Rousey was in the match. So within a couple of seconds after tagging in, Raquel found herself tapping to an armbar submission that Ronda didn't release necessarily all that quickly. Afterwards, we found out that Raquel's arm is broken and her elbow is dislocated. So this was going to give Shotzi that much more just oomph going into her title match the next night at Survivor Series. And, it didn't really do much. So Ronda beats Shotzi in about 7 minutes and 15 seconds. As I was saying backstage earlier, it wasn't a terrible match. It was just the match on the card that just about no one cared about. Ronda retains. Shotzi didn't look terrible, didn't look great. It really did nothing for anyone. Raquel was not there, so it didn't, push forward a tag team agenda between the two groups. We'll see where this goes, but that was your Women's SmackDown Women's Championship match at Survivor Series. Let's get back to the other title match on Survivor Series card. This was the triple threat. It was for the United States Championship between Seth Rollins, your champion, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory. They had plenty of words leading up to it, but Gary, tell us how it all worked out.
I have to say, I love the start of this. We had Bell went and Lashley clotheslines Theory to the outside. And Lashley or Theory goes to climb back in, so Rollins goes over and clotheslines him back out again. As if to go, no, get out and let the big boys play here, mate. They both Theory tried to trick then Lashley afterwards and beat him down, but he got dropped with a delayed vertical suplex, and Rollins got hit by an exploder. But you had Theory caught them both about halfway through the match with the ring steps on the outside. Although then Rollins came back with his suicide dive sequences when he hit, I'm not sure, it was a 3 or 4, and then he had a tope to finish it off. Lashley saved Theory from the curb stomp, but as Lashley dropped Theory out of the ring to break a sleeper, he turned around and Rollins had hit a pedigree for a near fall in what was an awesome looking move. Theory had countered Lashley's hurt lock and was going for the pin, but Rollins came in out of nowhere, out of the camera shot, and hit a frog splash to break it up. Lashley then caught both men in one big hurt lock. But right as we come to the end, Rollins superplex Theory, was going for the Falcon Arrow, but Lashley came in and speared him, but that allowed Theory to actually just fall straight on top of Seth Rollins and to get the win. And your new United States champion is Austin Theory.
Who saw that coming?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they called an audible on that one. I feel like Seth was supposed to have that belt for a while, and then they decided to take the briefcase off of Theory.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, Seth, well, we'll have you beat him on the cash-in, but he's going to take that belt from you at Survivor Series.
Yeah, and, I mean, there's, once again, I'm not even going to bother to bring up SpongeBob, but, sometimes we do acknowledge rumors here because there's nothing bigger than rumors in wrestling. Someone was telling me last week they read a rumor that the USA Network, and while I completely believe this story is possible, how it took this long to get to it, it makes me believe it's just as much a rumor as when I brought it up 6 months ago. The USA Network is tired of not having a champion on the show. So it looked like they were elevating the US title, but now the fact that they took it off of Seth and, didn't give it necessarily to Bobby, is that freeing them? Are they going to finally do something to get a world champion back on that show? Because those are obviously two guys who would be at the tippy top of the card. Take it for what it's worth. It's a nice step for Theory. It's his second run with the title. He, was the youngest, and now he's the youngest 2-time, I would imagine. And we'll see where this goes for him. But, boy, it would be great to, without having to ding Roman, there's a way you can get a champion back on here. And, because let's be honest, if you told me you were putting these titles back together, I've said this 20 times on this show, I think. If you told me these titles were going to stay together, let Roman carry him for 4 years. He continues to be entertaining, no problem. But you're eventually going back to 2 champions. It's time to somehow separate one of those belts and let Roman give it up in a way that doesn't make him look bad, because he's still having a great heel run with the Universal title. All right, end of rant. Okay, going back to SmackDown once again, we had Kevin Owens approaching Sami Zayn outside the Bloodline locker room. Turns out Jay was listening in. Kevin told him not to wait for the Bloodline to turn on him because it's coming. Then afterwards, Sami lied about the fact that he had spoken to Kevin Owens. Jey Uso went running to the tribal chief to tell him that, not to trust Sami. Once again, Roman said, I will look in his eyes and I will know everything I have to know. He pulled Sami aside. Sami admitted to it right away. So we go forward with a big hug. And even though Roman had a look on his face like, I'm not sure I 100% trust you, at least Sami didn't lie to Roman. He lied to Jay because he didn't want to distract him for his big match that he had that particular evening. At least that was the excuse. Later on, at the end of SmackDown, Drew McIntyre and Sheamus would win the War Games Advantage match over the Usos. So that brings us to our main event of War Games. John Smith, tell us all about the men's War Games match.
All right, so we start off with Butch and Jey Uso. Butch just went at it on Jay's hand for about 3.5, 4 minutes. And by the time Jay was able to take the upper hand, here comes Ridge Holland to make it 2-on-1. So Jay gets the crap beaten out of him for about 3 minutes, and then the clock hits, and here comes Jimmy. Oh, no. Roman stops him and tells Sammy to go in there. So Sammy is walking down the aisle, and it's like, why is he walking so slow? But then you realize Butch and Holland are just waiting for him. They're just standing on the ropes, just on the cage, waiting for him, with Jay knocked out on the ground. So Sammy takes his sweet-ass time. He walks up the steps, and eventually Jay comes to and attacks Butch from behind. Then Ridge jumps on Jay, and then Sammy jumps on Ridge. And then the crowd goes wild as Sammy just beats the crap out of Ridge, throws him on the in-between area of the two rings, holds himself up on the two top ropes, and just keeps running on him like a maniac. Like Chris Farley running in a stream of gasoline. So after that, then we get Drew McIntyre coming in, who beats the crap out of both Sammy and Jay while the other two on the ground, and then it's 3-on-2, and then we finally get Jimmy coming in, and then Kevin Owens not too long after that, and then Solo Sikoa, then Sheamus, and then finally the tribal chief stands up from the folding chair he's been sitting on the entire time inside of the cage, and he comes out, and then he just dominates. There's 9 people on the ground, and then him standing over everybody for a while. But the real story here was Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and obviously Roman. So Kevin Owens hits the pop-up powerbomb and a stunner to Roman. He's definitely got the 1, 2, 3, but Sammy jumps in and holds the ref's arm up. And then he got a nice little stare down between him and KO. Then KO is about to do something. I forget what he was holding somebody, but then gets low blow by Sammy. And that's when we know where his true intentions lie. And Kevin Owens backs up into the corner. Sammy's kind of a little hesitant still. Roman gives him the nod, and then we get a haluva kick. He holds Kevin Owens up from being able to fall until he lets him fall in perfect spot for a splash. And he tells Jay, get up there, splash him, end this. Jay jumps off, hits the splash. 1, 2, 3, bloodline win. Everybody's celebrating. We get a hug from Roman to Sammy. And then we get a hug from Jay to Sammy. And the crowd goes freaking wild. This is the best storytelling they've done in a long time. I love it. You know, they hugged again, and they popped again. It was great. It was a great celebration, and it's crazy. It's like everybody's still rooting against them, but then they all like this little side story at the same time, and they cheer that. It's a great little dynamic they got going on.
Yeah, and it was a hell of a main event for an overall very, very entertaining Survivor Series. Survivor Series was never one of my favorites of the year, but the War Games sure add something, don't it?
You know, they're gonna do the War Games matches like this last, like the men's one. I'm all for it because there was actually like some bad blood between the two of them.
Sure.
But when you just piece together 5 people, kind of like the women did, I know there is some bad blood there, but it didn't have the same feel, obviously. And they had more weapons and more stuff involved in their match. This one was all about the storytelling, and it worked, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You didn't really need that many high spots in the men's match or that many tables and that much plunder because the storyline was 100% there. Okay, let's take a look at how we did. And I don't want to talk about it. And that's our WWE specific numbers, and it's even uglier when we get to the overall numbers. This is that's going to do it for SmackDown. That's going to do it for War Games. And Gary, we're finally going to let you go have your evening, get some sleep. Thank you so much for hanging with us as long as you did, and we can't wait to see you again next week.
Yes, much appreciated. I'm looking forward to seeing. I hope on NXT tonight that they just try and have X-Pac read off the rules for these Survivor Challenge things, it would just be entertaining for 2 hours. But
Oh God, just give me more X-Pac.
have a good one. I shall see you later.
See you later, guy.
Later, Gary.
All right, let me get the right this, that, and the other thing. What I got to do here? It's going to go to this one. There we go. All
Were our
right.
names even up the other time throughout this show?
This time I think I had it up for most of it. I just didn't bother during that last cutaway to the scores. But yeah, I screwed that up for a whole show last week, I think.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice last week.
Yeah, I don't even know. You know when I usually notice when I go to click the next thing and I go like, oh wait, that other thing wasn't even on. Ah, crap. Let's jump into Raw from last night. The first match of the evening was supposed to be Rhea versus Mia Yim. We had all kinds of craziness. Dominic got involved, and that brought out AJ Styles. And, you know, I forgot to check the website to see how they even scored this. I assume it was a double DQ, but the bell didn't ring till AJ slid in, so I'm not sure if maybe Rhea won by DQ. The point is the match kind of got thrown out. It brought out the Judgment Day. It brought out the OC. So, hey, we're doing our first hour commercial free. Let's get an 8-person tag. Wait a minute. An 8-person mixed tag. And yes, we did have some interaction between the males and the females. The announce desk, they started talking about how, the mixed tag rules or when the women are in, the other woman has to come in, blah, blah, blah. Well, Rhea is Rhea, so Rhea does what Rhea wants to do. She put the boots to a couple of the fellas last night. In the end, Mia Yim scooped Slam Balor, set up Dom for a DDT, but Rhea spun her around, delivered the Riptide, pinned Mia Yim. The Judgment Day gets the win. It went 14-plus minutes. It was very entertaining. That was the first in-ring action, but the show actually opened with Becky Lynch coming out, reminding us that she's a man of the people, so she hopped the barricade and spent some time with the people. Bayley interrupted, said they have the fans. She doesn't like the fans, of course. The fans have no appreciation for her, the role model. They're putting Becky over for being a part of this one hardcore match when Bayley's done 3 of them in the last month or so. So, what's going on here? Well, they start fighting back and forth. Dakota came out, Io came out through the crowd. Bayley joined them up in the crowd. They spilled out onto the concourse. They wiped out a merch stand. Security finally pulled them apart. Later, we saw Candice LeRae backstage, who reminded us and Kathy Kelly that she's been gone for 5 weeks because she was taken out by Damage Control. And tonight, she's looking to take out Dakota Kai. That match didn't happen until later in the show, but let's talk about it right now. John Smith, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai. What'd you see in this one?
I saw a lot more than I was expecting, to be honest with you. I mean, I was expecting a good match, but I was expecting a shorter match. Sure. We got like 2.5 segments out of this match. I don't know what your timer says, but it had to be a 15-minute match.
Yeah, just about 14:45.
Yeah, this the great display of what NXT does for these women. Like Dakota Kai 6 years ago would never have had this match. And the same thing with Candice LeRae. It was just a solid, straight-up wrestling match between these two. Ended up with a nice swinging neck breaker off the top rope by Candice onto Dakota. And she actually fell into a cover at the same time. She was still hooked in the leg and everything. Big ups to Dakota Kai with her assless and crotchless chaps that she was wearing. Unfortunately, she was wearing shorts as well.
Yeah, that was good stuff, and it was, I say this all the time too on this show. A year and a half ago, the women's division in NXT was untouchable, and you got a taste of that last night. And they even did it right to make sure that there was really no outside interference. These two just went for almost 15 minutes, and it was good stuff.
Yep.
Backstage, we saw Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss again. They were with Kathy Kelly. Bianca said she's glad to be done with Bayley. Now, Bayley didn't bark back at her, so maybe she's moving on. Meanwhile, Asuka seemed to be kind of in a trance. So now that Bianca's dance card is open, is it time for Alexa to make that turn and go after her? Who knows? We'll see. The Street
I want to
Profits.
see a heel turn by Asuka. When are we going to get heel Asuka? Have we ever gotten heel? Oh, yeah, when she was with Kyrie, but then they just quickly turned face.
Right, yeah.
Everybody loves her. So,
yeah, they were too much fun to keep them heels.
yeah.
Heel Asuka would be something to see. Have her just rip through this women's division again like she did in NXT and should have done here. Okay, where do we go next? We had the Street Profits backstage with Byron Saxton. They're officially back tonight. The Alpha Academy interrupted. They shooshed them. They're going to fight about it. They're going to welcome them technically back to the ring. And it went exactly how you thought it was going to go. It went 10 plus minutes because, Gable, Jesus. Why can't I think of the man's name?
Charlie Haas.
Chad Gable continues to give us gold on the mic and in the ring. So it went 12 plus minutes and ended just like you thought. Dawkins with the anointment, Ford from the heavens, Gable taking the bump. 1, 2, 3. Street Profits win. Austin Theory came out, said he never wants to be called Kid again. He's a 2-time U.S. champ. He's no longer the future. He's the now, and he's the face of Raw. Seth Rollins came out, got face-to-face with him, and of course said, congratulations, kid. So no sightings of Bobby Lashley, but maybe Seth's not completely done with Theory yet. We'll see how that works out. We knew coming into this one, the one match that I think we knew was booked was Miz versus Dexter Lumis. Whether or not Lumis was going to get himself a contract. Well, Miz tried to get out of it once again, claiming he was injured. Playing tiddlywinks. I'm not entirely sure what. Adam Pearce said, yeah, bro, this match is happening. Just knock it off. The match starts. They immediately go to commercial. It turns out it's an anything goes match. I don't think that was mentioned before last night. They come back out of the commercial break. Lumis is standing in the middle of the ring. He has a giant C-clamp on his head. Miz is turning it, and apparently it's having no effect. And Lumis drops him with a punch or a kick or something like that and just takes the C-clamp off and tosses it aside. They go out into the crowd. Lumis walks the barricade and drops an elbow, puts Miz through a table, drags his carcass back to the ring, locks on silence. Miz taps, submission win, just under 10 minutes. Dexter Lumis, he gets a contract. Adam Pearce is right out there at ringside to present him with the contract and have him sign it right in front of the crowd. And he gets Miz's Louis Vuitton bag full of money, all the money that he owed him for the crap he was doing for him. Lumis continues to, of course, not blink and walk up the aisle and hand $100 bills to random, young kids in the front row. And when he gets almost to the end of the aisle, Miz catches back up with him, drops him. He even yanks a $100 bill out of a kid's hand standing right there in the front row. But, of course, he turns around to head backstage, and Johnny Gargano super kicks him. The kid gets his $100 bill back. Miz leaves looking like an ass. Lumis leaves with his contract and his Louis Vuitton bag full of money. Oh, goodness gracious. Later on in the evening, we had the Bloodline to the ring. Jimmy said there's no cracks in the Bloodline. Everything's good now. Sammy said that the way that Jay treated him at War Games afterwards, that was Usi. Solo Sikoa, now suddenly it seems like he's the one who's not sure about anyone. He's been doing a lot of mean mugging. We're not sure where that one's going. Kevin Owens came out to interrupt them, said he's happy for Sammy because Sammy's over with the crowd and he's getting the best reaction he ever has, but no more worried about them being best friends. He wants nothing to do with them. Sammy said, I want nothing to do with you either. I have a family now. KO said, they're not really your family. It's just a matter of time. Jay Uso sticks up for Sammy and says, if you got a problem with Sammy, you've got a problem with me. And they were going to settle that in the main event. But before we got there, Riddle and Elias were backstage with Byron Saxton. Riddle says that they make a good team and they should go after the tag titles. The Bloodline show up there backstage. This is a couple seconds later, of course, and tell them, fellas, it's never going to happen. Elias says, put your money where your mouth is. So this week on Raw, this coming week, we will get a match between the Usos, your undisputed, undefeated, under everything champions, against Riddle and Elias for the tag titles. John Smith, what say you?
Wow, it's right up for the tag titles. It's not even for a shot at the titles.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's going to have to be the Usos winning. There's no way they're going to lose it this way. They're obviously going to cheat and, whatever, but where's that going? I don't understand where they're going with this.
Yeah, it seems so awkward. It was like, oh, these guys made a nice team and they fought the Alpha Academy because they had fought the Alpha Academy separately. They get one win together and they're going for you've got a tag division chomping at the bit here. These champs, there's one set of champs, and these guys team together once they're getting a tag title shot. Makes no sense. I agree with you. It would make even less sense to take the titles off of the Usos in this fashion. So I'm going to say the Usos retain.
Is Randy Orton still hurt?
I have not heard a peep about him in months.
What if he comes back and RKO's Riddle and he's all butthurt that he found a new partner? And then we get the nice long feud that leads to WrestleMania. Because I think we were supposed to get the two of them at last year's WrestleMania, but it was going so well, they kept them together.
Yeah, exactly. Triple H, are you listening? We're doing all this booking for you. I hope you're paying attention.
Paul.
That would be funny as hell. So getting back to the bloodline and the issues with Kevin Owens, continued fallout from War Games. Kevin and main event Jey Uso in the main event on Raw. Tell us all about it, John Smith.
It's been a while since we saw main event Jey in the main event on his own.
Indeed.
He's been in plenty, but it's usually with the bloodline or at least his brother. These two went at it for quite a while, and the bloodline was accompanying and also getting involved and distracting, and Sammy Solo and Jimmy. I mean, of course, the tribal chief was not on Raw yet again. So Jey goes for a splash off the top rope after getting some help on the outside by Solo. Solo had swept Kevin Owens' legs out from under him on the ring apron, and then he rolled in, and Jey missed the splash, rolled through it, and when he stood up, he got stunned by KO and got dropped for the 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, my recording cut out right after that, so I don't know if anything happened right after the 3 count, but I'm sure you can fill me in on that if there's something I missed there.
Incredibly, I thought there would be some more fallout or something that would happen afterwards, but just the Kevin Owens, I think, kind of rolled out and got out of the way to make sure that there was no price to pay from the bloodline. The bloodline was just kind of what the hell, all together in the ring, kind of picking Jey up. And I remember thinking this last night, like I was, finishing typing, and Owens hits a stunner for the win. And then I look up and the news was on, and I'm like, really? That's how they went out? Like, just boom, 1, 2, 3, and within 30 seconds they faded to black.
I guess we're building towards Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns again.
Yeah, you know what? If it hadn't happened so many times 2 years ago, I would absolutely welcome it. I almost kind of refuse to believe that's where they're going because of the way it went last time. But
right.
It looks like we're coming back there, and it's going to be great. I'm going to love it, and I'm going to be rooting for Kevin to be the one to take the belts off of him. But I don't know if it's going to happen.
Hey, you got a shirt on right now.
Indeed.
Why has it got the stars and stripes on it? He's a Canadian.
That was his gimmick with when Jericho was still there, when he was the new face of America because he was the United States champion. Okay,
yeah, I remember now. That was funny.
Yeah, I bust this one out every 4th of July. All right, so that'll do it for Raw. We got the Rumble coming up January 28th in San Antonio. And although I'm sure it was out there previously, I think the first time we heard it announced on Raw last night, the Elimination Chamber comes to Montreal, Quebec on February the 18th. And it looks like next year, again, we're still doing Saturday pay-per-views, at least through the first 2 months. So, okay. Last week, Impact was mostly a recap show, just a couple of promos. Man, they did some wacky, stupid stuff on Thanksgivings gone by. And quite often they involved the loser winding up in a turkey suit.
Why couldn't they give us Wrestle House this year?
I know. Well, or what they could, if they didn't have it booked in this fashion, the next day they taped that IWPF, the throwback show.
Right.
But they didn't tape it till Black Friday, so we're gonna get that in a couple of weeks. But yeah, they gave us absolutely nothing on Thanksgiving Day, and I was heartbroken. We did get a couple of in between the Happy Thanksgiving messages and the throwbacks to which idiot was wearing the turkey suit this year. They had some promos. We had Diener and Eric Young explaining that Alan Angels and Big Con weren't too happy. They don't know what's going on with Violent by Design. Eric Young just lost that big bloody match a couple of weeks ago. EY says sometimes you need to go back to where it all began. No clue what the hell that means, but they felt like we needed to get that teaser before this week, so we'll see where that's headed.
Team Canada?
Perhaps. Mickie James responded to Deonna Purrazzo calling her a selfish bitch the week before, and she says she's ready to fight about it. And this is, the last rodeo. I thought we would get this one at a pay-per-view. We're getting that this week on Access TV. John Smith, Mickie James, Deonna Purrazzo with Mickey's career on the line. How do you see it breaking down?
The whole career on the line last rodeo thing is getting a little old to me. It's going to end in epic fashion and epic buildup. So obviously I'm going to go with Mickie on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought there was an outside chance Deonna would be the one at the end here. She'd be the Mike Tyson, but maybe she wasn't necessarily going to get all the way to the title shot. I never saw this one being given away on free TV because obviously Mickey's going to win again. So yeah, I agree with you. Mickie rolls on. We saw some bonus footage from Overdrive, where apparently after the whole debacle that happened at the end of the main event, Scott D'Amore came out and he chewed out Bully Ray for his actions. Rich Swann came out to try and protect Josh and his wife in case Bully Ray came back at them again. And even though, at least in terms of the footage I saw, Bully Ray and Swann never actually threw hands, they're going to do it this week for absolutely no reason. Rich Swann versus Bully Ray. What do you say?
Just because he's going towards a world title match, I'm going to go with Bully Ray on this one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought, if anything, Swan's won Swann was on a terrible losing streak, and then he's won two, fun matches recently, but they were both in the X division. I thought he was going to go after Trey. I don't even know why he's fighting Bully Ray. So I'm going to agree with you. Bully Ray absolutely will take this one. What else we had? We had Steve Macklin. He called himself a prisoner of war by this company. He's being held hostage by Impact Wrestling. And he plans to take out his frustrations on Frankie Kazarian, who he feels jumped the line to get a world title shot. This week on Thursday, Macklin, Kazarian. What do you say?
Macklin, Kazarian. I think it's time for Frankie to be putting people over in this run since he got himself a title win and a title shot. So I'm going to go with Macklin here.
For exactly the reasons you laid out, I would have to agree. I mean, we already know that we're not getting Bully Ray and Josh until January. So does Macklin work his way into that and it becomes a three-way? Because I don't know how you put him off much longer with all the winning he's been doing, but I don't see him losing to Kazarian here. So I'll take
January.
Yeah, hard to kill on pay-per-view. Exactly.
Wow.
Let's see what else we have. And that's the next thing, the very next thing is this IWPF, the old throwback gimmick. So that's going to be their Impact Plus special for this month. So
Right.
There's nothing between now and January. So, or at least nothing pay-per-view related. And then in the why the hell did this match even get booked moment of the evening, we're going to get Bhupinder Gujjar or Gujar, whatever, and Moose this Thursday. How do you see this one?
I always have trouble picking against Moose, and especially against Bhupinder Gujjar. There's no way. I'm going with Moose here.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. Once again, I don't know what I did. Like there was no lead into this. Nobody cut a promo on each other. Nobody threw hands with each other. No one even got pushed out of the way backstage. It was just like, oh, and by the way, Bhupinder and Moose. Okay, great. And that's gonna do it for Impact. Let's jump over to the mess that is my notes on AEW from last week.
Hey, it's not just your notes.
Good point. Good point. The show, I believe, opened with William Regal in the ring already. And he said that MJF will explain himself to the fans next week. That brought John Moxley out through the crowd, which brought Bryan Danielson down through out the tunnel through the ramp. Danielson was begging Mox not to essentially murder William Regal because he's got the neck issues, and he knows that basically if Mox laid a hand on him, it was going to end up with William Regal in the hospital. Mox did everything he could did absolutely shaking, and basically told William Regal, "Get out of here, run far away, don't ever come back. I don't ever want to see you again." Regal slowly left the ring and kind of arrogantly walked up the ramp. Who knows where this is going, but we will hear from MJF this week. And then the first match of the week last week on Dynamite was an All-Atlantic Championship match between Orange Cassidy and Jake Hager in his stupid purple hat. John Smith, how'd this one work out?
It's been a while since I saw Hager. I don't know where this purple hat came from. He does look kind of good in it, but it's like, how is this your gimmick? And the first segment of this match before the commercial was just them getting their gimmicks in, the Orange Cassidy with the pockets, and then Keep Away with the purple hat, and then Hager finally gets it back and starts beating the crap out of him. And we come back from commercial, and at one point Hager's got the ankle lock on him. Orange Cassidy ends up getting the hat away from him again and tosses it to the side. And after he breaks out of the ankle lock, Hager goes and puts the hat on and turns around right to an orange punch, which staggers him. He doesn't go down. And then Orange Cassidy adds one to the Raw roll-ups for AEW by hitting a little somersault schoolboy whatnot for the 1, 2, 3, and he keeps his championship. But then after the fact, we get the lights turned out, and when they turn back on, House of Black is in the ring behind the Best Friends, and they take out all 4 Best Friends. And then they kind of stop for a minute or a second, and then look at the Jericho Appreciation Society that's been standing around the edge of the ring, and they go after them. So the House of Black is back, and they hate everybody.
Nice. And as rightly they should. Also, last week on Dynamite, we finally got to the Eliminator Final, where Ricky Starks beat Ethan Page with not 1, not 2, but 3 spears that a man his size has no right trying to sell as a finisher. So Starks is headed to Winter is Coming for a AEW World Championship match. Let's see. We had Jade Cargill backstage with Renee. Apparently she had some kind of social media thing with Lil Bow Wow. I hope they're not bringing this onto TV. They mentioned it quickly, and she went, "I have no comment." They moved on. I didn't bother looking into it because I don't give a darn. But next week, she said she will be celebrating getting her belt back, and Red Velvet returned to the baddies. So there will be a Jade Cargill TBS Championship celebration, and at the end of the segment, her lawyer, Mark Sterling, handed Kiera Hogan termination papers from the baddies. Velvet back, Kiera Hogan and her blue hair out. I think we know who's probably going after the TBS title next, but it's not official yet. We had Renee Paquette out on the stage to announce that they finally did the thing that unfortunately they should have done a little while ago, and it's a shame, but Thunder Rosa's, I don't know if she's still arguing with AEW, backstage, or if she's legitimately still this hurt that she's still not there. But enough with the interim crap. Thunder Rosa has relinquished her title, making Jamie Hayter the women's world champion. Britt Baker said we never considered her interim anyway. And I guess just to be able to celebrate Jamie as their non-interim champion, they had a 3-way women's tag match out of nowhere. Made no sense. No one really cared. In the end, Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker won over Willow Nightingale and Sky Blue, Tame Mello and Anna Jay. When Hayter delivered the Hate Breaker, which is kind of her Uranagi backbreaker onto her knee, Baker followed with the stomp on Sky Blue. And speaking of things in the women's division, out of nowhere and for no good reason, out of the 2 losing teams, we're going to get a match this week between Willow Nightingale and Anna Jay. So, John Smith, I throw to you, sir. Willow Nightingale, Anna Jay. How do you see this working out?
I would be lying if I told you I even knew who Willow Nightingale was. I'm sorry. So I'm going to go with Anna Jay.
I'm going to go the other way only because I know a teeny weeny bit about Willow Nightingale, in that she was the one who actually fought our girl Roxanne Perez on the very last Ring of Honor show when I don't remember if Roxy was the champ or if it was a vacated championship. The 2 of them fought. Roxy won. She left as the ROH Women's Champ. Willow, who now officially is All Elite, I can only assume that maybe her face has been on our TV a lot recently because maybe they're going to try and work her into this Ring of Honor pay-per-view that's coming up. I could be reading way too much into that because that's really the only thing I know about Willow. So I'm going to go with Willow. I don't know where it's headed, but that's what I have to say. Staying in the women's division, we had a sit-down between Renee and Toni Storm. Toni said that Jamie Hayter needed Britt and Rebel to beat her. And Toni, who was sporting 2 black eyes, says she broke her face losing that title and she'll break it again trying to get it back. Also in the women's division, Athena, who suddenly became a heel. She was suspended for punching Aubrey Edwards, the referee. She made her public apology by saying, sorry. And that was
She should have gotten a raise.
She then bullied Lexi out of the screen so that she could speak right into the camera and call out Mercedes Martinez, who did show up 2 weeks ago, and ask her when she was going to put the ROH women's title on the line because Athena is waiting and she's game. So that's going to probably be your women's championship match at ROH. I don't know if they have that. My thinking about Willow possibly being on there too. I don't know if they have any other women signed to the contract, so who the hell knows? We also had a match between Hikaru Shida and In Action, whose name was Queen Aminata. Penelope Ford and the Bunny came down the ramp before the opening bell. They did nothing. They did not get involved. They didn't do anything after the match. Hikaru Shida won with the Falcon Arrow and her Katana knee strike. It was less than 90 seconds long. I don't know what the hell to make of any of that. Getting back to some things that were highly entertaining, however, on that show, I believe it was the main event of Dynamite. It was Chris Jericho and Tomohiro Ishii for the Ring of Honor World Championship. And John Smith, why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, well, this one, I'm glad you gave me this one. This one's definitely worth going back and watching if you didn't see it, guys, because you know, they had a little back and forth at the beginning, and then the standoff that you typically see at any point during a big AEW match. But then they just started chopping each other, and they went to commercial. So I just fast forwarded the commercial because I always get distracted by the commercial anyway. I never end up watching what's in the little box. And when they came back, Jericho's chest looked like hamburger meat, and he was actually bleeding from his chest. And, like, did he blade his chest? I don't think so. Did Ishii's nails scratch him? I don't think so. I think he just got chopped so much that his chest opened up. And it was pretty gross, man. Jericho's little bat was in the corner of the ring the whole match, so I figured he would end up using it, but he didn't. I was thinking the whole time, like, why is Aubrey letting this bat, like, just be there? It wasn't even, like, kind of blending in with the apron. It was, like, sideways. And it was basically like in the ring. It couldn't have been any closer to the ring without being in the ring. They went at it for a good 10 more minutes after Hamburger Helper got his chest busted open, but he ends up winning with a Walls of Jericho. So he gets the tap out from Ishii, who would not sell basically any shot to the face. It was more like he was dropping out of exhaustion. But he taps out to the Walls, and Jericho is still champion.
Yeah, and quite frankly, the bat was. I'm not sure why he even brought the bat, because I'm not sure if you hit Ishii in the head with the bat, it would even stagger him. So
yeah, the reverberations may hurt your hands more.
Exactly, like taking batting practice on a cold day.
Yeah.
Oh God! So afterwards, Jericho headed back up the ramp again, and again headed towards Ian Riccaboni at the announce desk. Claudio came out, slapped the taste out of Jericho's mouth, actually knocked him off his feet, and that was kind of like the last image you saw was Jericho on his ass at the top of the ramp, and Claudio had just slapped him. On Rampage, the Jericho Appreciation Society came to the ring. Jericho declared himself the greatest Ring of Honor champion of all time, and Claudio interrupted, said he knows he could beat Jericho if he was just given another chance. Jericho said, you have nothing that I want. So, no, you're not getting another chance. Matt Menard, your boy from 2.0, spoke up and said, wait a minute. Claudio's an excellent wrestler, but he was a really good sports entertainer too. What if? And of course, it went on from there. The match is going to get booked for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view event. It's going to be Jericho and Claudio. If Claudio wins, obviously he's the Ring of Honor World Champion. If he loses, he has to join the Jericho Appreciation Society and revert back to being a sports entertainer. That is some good stuff.
I like it. I want to see him lose that. I want to see them force him to do like the Cesaro swing and everything.
And wear like a matching jumpsuit every time they come out for a big pay-per-view and a matching suit. Yes, that would be hilarious.
Sing my song.
Also on that Rampage card, Darby Allin beat Anthony Henry. Who? Exactly. 8.5 minutes. The Dark Order and Roosh, Butcher and the Blade, they did their split screen. They couldn't find Preston Vance. It was supposed to be a 3-on-3 match. No one can find Preston Vance. They're headed out there without him because it's time for the main event. And when we get there, the Dark Order starts without number 10 for a while. About 6 minutes into the match, Evil Uno and -1 come running out onto the stage, and 10 comes sprinting out of the tunnel. He's down there to help his boys as they fight against Roosh, the Butcher, and the Blade, except for the fact he immediately turned on them. He dropped John Silver with a discus lariat. He even pretended to play with his mustache, calling back to Mr. Brody Lee. It broke little -1's heart. He ripped off his mask and spiked it at the feet of -1. Number 10, no longer part of the Dark Order. Oh, God. We had a backstage segment with FTR and Renee and Top Flight, where this was on Dynamite, I should make a point of saying, where FTR said that Top Flight, you are the future of the tag division, and we want you to carry it forward for us when our time comes and goes. And Top Flight said, that's all great. Why don't we fight about it, and you can teach us some things. So on Rampage, they actually opened with FTR putting the Ring of Honor tag titles on the line against Top Flight. Match went about 11.5 minutes. Considering the teams that are involved, I don't have to tell you, it was an excellent match. Dante Martin would miss the nosedive and get hit with the big rig. Cash would cover him for the 1-2-3. Afterwards, the Gun Club came out, and they came out with literally an enormous bag of popcorn, and they did we're not worthy to FTR. They're just trying to get under FTR's skin. I don't know why they don't just come out and ask for a match. I'm sure that's where we're headed at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, but for now it's not booked. But what did get booked in the backstage segment shortly thereafter was Dax said that it's been a great year for FTR as a team, and although he's always going to be there with Cash as a team member or as his teammate, etc., and they're always going to be the 7-star FTR, the greatest tag team of all time, He's got to shoot his shot. I had no idea where he was going. I thought he was going to turn to Lexi and ask her out on a date, but he shot his shot and challenged Bryan Danielson. He said, I want to challenge the best wrestler in the world. And before he was done with the question, let's not go to Danielson and see if he accepts. Put up the graphic. It's booked. It's happening this week on Dynamite. Dax versus Bryan Danielson. How do you see it working out, John?
I don't know. I mean, Bryan Danielson's there to put people over, like, ultimately, continue his career too. But I think this is where, like, Dax, doesn't realize how steep the hill he's climbing is, and he doesn't pull this one off.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, my first thought was, well, Danielson doesn't seem to really care whether he wins or loses, but yeah, I think this one's going to be a little lesson for Dax, and I'm sure they'll put on a hell of a match because Dax is surprised for someone who, until his AEW run, I don't know if I've ever seen him wrestle singles. He is surprisingly good as a singles guy. Not terribly surprising because he's so good as a doubles guy, but sometimes tag teams, when they go out on their own, you're like, yeah, something's missing there.
Billy Gunn.
He's awesome with FTR. Exactly. He's awesome with FTR. He's awesome on his own, but Bryan Danielson is Bryan Danielson. And that only left us with our main event for the week. No, it was not the main event. It was in the middle of Dynamite, excuse me. But it was the Death Triangle, match 2 out of 7 against the Elite. You and I both picked it right last week. Death Triangle went up 2-0. This time it was Brandon Cutler handing Matt Jackson a hammer, but Penta had one of his own and stopped Matt Jackson from hitting Pac. Instead, he hit Matt Jackson. Pac, all he had to do was hook a leg. 1, 2, 3. Death Triangle is up 2-0. Excuse me. The crazy thing was Phoenix was kind of pissed off at the end of this match. Like, oh, we didn't need to cheat. We didn't need to do that. Bro, last week, you used the hammer yourself. Like, I love Phoenix. I want to see him wrestle all the matches, titles, but be consistent for Christ's sake. Anyway, that leads us to this match 3 out of 7, and it is the Death Triangle and the Elite. John Smith, what do you say?
See, this one's hard to pick because they could go either way with this storyline. Like, okay, you're down 3-0, and you come back and win 4 straight, or they make it a series by winning this. This is the whole sports thing. It's almost like which way do they plan on? Because we know how it's always going. It's going to a match 7, regardless. So how do they book it? I'm going to say that the Death Triangle goes up 3-0 on this.
Okay. See, I was waiting for you because last week I think we both said, yeah, they're going to go up 2-0. And then I don't know if you agreed with me, but I said, like, I see it going like a hockey series, 2-2, 1-1-1 to make it interesting down the end. And then I realized at the end of the match last week, and I was going to throw this in, especially if you had picked the Elite, was that so far we've had Omega get hit in the head by Phoenix. We've had Matt get hit in the head by Penta. Are they going to go super cheesy and have Pac hit Nick in the head, setting up the 3-0, and then let the Elite run 4 in a row? Yeah, I kind of feel like that's where they're going. So I am going to say the Death Triangle gets the win again also.
Word.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, I figured this was going to be a relatively short episode because we had no Impact and a 5-match pay-per-view to talk about. That's going to take us to let's look at the Raw roll-ups for the week if I can find them. That's the football standings. The roll-ups. All right. Again, at the start of the week, we had AEW with a 5-point lead. This past week, you broke it down for us. Cassidy had the roll-up on Jake Hager. I talked about it earlier on SmackDown. Ricochet rolled up Braun Strowman. That takes us to AEW hitting the 50 mark.
What?
Raw now 6 roll-ups behind, and Impact just sitting there waiting for their shot to shine. Woods still leads in those who roll up, and Miz, of course, in getting rolled up. Now, let's go to the money time. Where the hell are we here? Let's start the music.
All right.
Take it away, sir.
So the primetime rundown is back in its usual day and time as Joey Jarzanka, Ian Schreier, and Mike Zabo return to Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern with everything you need to know in the sports world. Their Survivor Pool graphic, we've got we went 4-2 this week, and it looks like did we gain a game? No, we lost a game here to the primetime rundown. It's not going the way it did for us last year.
Not so much.
It looks like Tyler actually made a pick this week. Hey, thanks a lot for sending a very short email, Tyler. I know it's hard to do.
Way to go, champ.
Do you have an interest in becoming a sports reporter? Would you want to be asking high-profile coaches and players questions in person? Are you a college student looking to break into the sports media industry and looking to write about your favorite team? The Eastern Observer is looking for interested candidates to join the family for college credit. Look no further. Aspiring writers, social media specialists, content creators, etc. can inquire by emailing eosports3@gmail.com. We are looking forward to having you join the Eastern Observer family. The Black Cats NYC are the official band of the Eastern Observer. Check out their classic album, Free Cake, on any of these music providers that you see here. I'll read that for you if you're listening because we're very long on time right now. That would be Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube Music, and Amazon Music. Anywhere you get your music, you can get the Black Cats NYC's album Free Cake out now. Play loud. As always, the EWP is sponsored by ProWrestlingPick'em.com, the internet leader in sports entertainment pick'em pools. Possibly the only leader, the only one in internet pick'em pools. Join us in the EWP public pool to play against us or create a private pool with you and your friends. PWP.com, play against your friends, play against the universe. And guys, she'll like it too. I don't think it's PWP.com though. I think it's just ProWrestlingPick'em.com.
Yes.
Even though my notes say PWP.com. Don't go to PWP.com. We are not sponsored by them.
And we have no idea what you might see.
Block it from your browser. Yeah, you don't know. We do not endorse this. Join us back here next week for episode 129 at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern on all of our viewing options and listening options. Actually, no, just viewing live, then listening after. And while you're here, here is spelled H-E-A-R. I didn't write that. And while you're here now watching and listening, please make sure you like this episode. Subscribe to the Eastern Observer also to make sure you get updates on all of our shows and news articles. It's all about the algorithm.
Indeed it is, sir. Indeed it is. That's going to do it for us this week. John Smith, even though I just made you talk for almost 5 straight minutes, is there anything else you'd like to impart, any wisdom that you'd like to give the folks?
Yeah, you did it for about an hour and 25 straight minutes. I feel bad. I should take more off your plate when now that I think about it. But
there was just a lot of fast-forwardable content this week. Like, I looked at some of the matches and went like, am I really going to do this to him and make him break down a match between 2 women he probably couldn't pick out of a lineup on AEW?
Yeah, thanks for giving me the matches you did.
Yeah, good stuff. I appreciate you allowing me to do it that way. And but as always, when there's something that's worth talking about, we chop it around no matter what.
Of course.
Okay, so that's going to do it for us this week. Alexa Bliss, we love you. Larry Steve, always in our hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. And as always, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors.